I apologize. I had to take a break due to some music going off in the cafe that I am recording this in. I will start off with the next question. I asked my mother, if an abortion is sought out and it is illegal, what do you think the punishment be for the woman and the doctor providing the service? This answer to this question was a bit complicated for my mom, so she started off by answering for the doctor. She thought that he should lose his license if it is illegal. He should be lose his license for malpractice. But for the woman, she had a bit more complicated views on it because we'll use the example I used earlier about a woman not being financially ready to support a child. So if we're going to either fine or put this woman in prison for the crime she just committed, it's not doing her any favors, because if she's thrown in prison, she's obviously going to lose her job. Or if she's fine, she's now in an even deeper hole of debt than what she is in, because she can't financially support herself already. Now she has to pay this fine, is still in financial debt, and now she has to pay all the medical bills, pay for the baby that she's about to have. So it was a bit more, this answer made my mom think more about it a little. It made her question her beliefs a little bit more. It didn't change her mind, but this was something that didn't sit well with her, so she wasn't able to get a clear, definitive answer for this one. The final question I asked her, why do you think you should have a say over another person's body? And this enabled a long discussion between us. My mother is one of the most understanding people on the planet. So it was, for me, it was very confusing to me as to why she would. I can understand having this belief, but having a belief like this where it's limiting the choice of other people. And for her, I think, for her, the real answer was that she hasn't been exposed to anyone that has ever come across this event or like triggered this decision, which is having an abortion. She has had friends who have lost children, had miscarriages, children who have unfortunately passed, but she has never, in her personal experience, come across someone who has chosen to have an abortion. And that she stated that may have a reason into why she thinks this way, because my mom is friends with people from all walks of life, and she's a very understanding person. She's always there as a shoulder to lean on, and she's a very therapeutic person to be around. As we talked about it more, we just more talked about how it is sometimes better for us to stay in our lane versus trying to worry how we control other people's lives and how they live them. So those are the questions. The lessons learned from here is, since my mother and I had opposing views, we were to have a very respectful is the right word, respectful discussion about this. And the intention wasn't, she knew going in, the intention wasn't to attack her beliefs, and she wasn't trying to attack me. And it came from a point of understanding why we thought this way. The reason I feel this way about this issue is because I've been exposed to more people from more different backgrounds than she is. Being in the U.S. military, I have literally met people from all walks of life, all ethnicities. So in order to make friends, you have to have a general understanding that people are going to be different from you. Both of us took something away from this conversation. I know my mom she has some things she wants to think about and maybe reevaluate her opinions on it, given the information and discussion that we had. A big piece of it is necessary to have discussions with someone who has an opposing view to yours. And one of them is like, my mother had never really experienced this, like someone who may consider an abortion. She just only reads what she reads in the news. And I personally think a big problem that is how the content we consume. We choose what we want to consume. We choose what we like, what we follow. So everything conforms to our needs. So we're never getting the no, think differently. And that's kind of what happened to my mother. Granted, people still think this way in my line of work. People still have these hard opinions on things. I have hard opinions on things based on information I have received. But I've recently been trying to taking content that may not always fit in my view, so that way I can learn something from it, because I can easily look up content that supports my views, supports basically is stuff that I agree to, versus finding something that I may have to question my beliefs about. We also had the discussion of agreeing versus understanding. A lot of people believe that in discussions like this, there needs to be an agreement, like my mom has to cave or I have to cave in this argument. I have to be like, you know what, you made a good point. I guess abortion is morally wrong, and but that's not the point of this. It's understanding, and that's where we get the lines mixed nowadays, which is why people hold. I personally believe people hold such hard opinions on things, because agreeing and understanding aren't the same thing. I have lots of friends who have different opinions than me, but I understand why they think that way based off the way they were raised, based off of their life situation, based on the information that was given to them about that certain topic. And I think if we, as a whole society, if we come to the point where we're not trying to get to a point to agreement, we're trying to get to a point of understanding, because you have to get to understanding in order to potentially agree, if that makes any sense. I would say my mother follows the moral objectivism, because of just her viewpoint is literally based off the information that was given to her. She was raised on religion, and then it ultimately leads into not just her religious beliefs, but her personal beliefs of why she believes in this issue. And for me, it falls into natural law theory, because it's just one of those, for me, it's just, I have little, and I shouldn't have a say in how other people's lives go. That's just my personal viewpoint. I will say the conversation did not change my viewpoint. Yeah, sorry. The conversation didn't change my viewpoint, but it has nothing to do with the fact, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I believe I'm more right than her, or whatever. It's just, I feel like I have access to more information that leads me to think this way. And my intention wasn't to get my mom to agree with me. It was just to get her to maybe ask more questions about her own personal beliefs. Unfortunately, abortions will still be pursued whether they're illegal or not. Most politicians also arguing against abortion have a religious background. It's a platform that they've run on and use this reason for supporting it. So that's kind of why I asked her those questions based around her religious beliefs. In conclusion for this presentation, it was a really good experience for me and my mom to do this. As I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to expose myself to people that think from different viewpoints, and for my mom, I think it was a good experience for her, because she hasn't really done that either. And I think it's incredibly important for us to grow as humans, is to have conflict, if that makes any sense, that conflict with our own beliefs, because it helps us grow ultimately. I will say neither of our viewpoints were changed, but we did come to an understanding of why we think the way that we do. It's just my mom's 46 years old. She's been believing this for 46 years. There's not, unless I have mind-blowing evidence as to why she should think this way, it's going to take her some time to adapt. And I understand that. I understand thinking a certain way for so many years. It just becomes almost ingrained in your DNA, it seems like, to think that way. It was very healthy for us to do it. We didn't just talk about this. It was just, we talked about a whole scheme of things, but it was a good conversation for us to have and help us grow as mother and son. And I think the most important thing is it forced us out of our comfort zone. We talked about a very uncomfortable topic that is uncomfortable for a lot of people, and for my mother especially, because she believes that this act is killing someone. So it was very uncomfortable, I guess you could say, but she felt comfortable around me because I'm her son and we have a good working relationship. Other than that, I would recommend having this discussion with someone who you are close to as a start off, because it's one of those things where you don't want to confuse it, like I stated in my intro, with attacking the other person. You're trying to get to a point of understanding, and if at best case scenario, get to a place of agreement.